Hello. Good morning. Happy second half of 2024. We are here. I think I just want to make a quick comment about that. What's interesting about halftime is like if you realize you gamify life or you gamify your real estate business and you go into the locker room at halftime and you're asking yourself a couple questions like, did I win the first half? Do I need to keep doing the same things? Did I screw up the first half and I need to just drastically change what I'm doing for the second half? Or are there some tweaks to my strategy I need to do for the second half? There's some critical questions you should be asking yourself at halftime. And I would just encourage everybody, whether it's at a team meeting tomorrow with your coach, or you're just smart enough to ask yourself tough questions, you should always take the opportunity of the line in the sand of halftime to assess your performance of first half and do whatever's necessary to win the second half. And it just so happens today's the day. Kelly, what would you say? Rick, say something smart. Come on.
I 1000% agree. I love a halftime because because even if you had a great year, you could still lose the game if you don't watch what you do the third and fourth quarter. So, but if you're behind, people always catch up. So it's a good opportunity to be reflective.
There you go. You're muted, Rick, or we can't hear you. You look good though. Nice, clean shaven. I can't say that much.
Here we go.
There we go.
All I'd say is if you're behind, and so conversely to Kelly's point, if you're behind, it's no one, games aren't won in the first half or the first quarter. It's really the fourth quarter. So now is the time to dial up and double down.
Rock and roll. All right. We're here for industry update. There's our leadership moment for the day. Let's roll. Okay. Starting off with numbers. Supply of inventory, active properties, Fulton County is almost to 1,100. We've been holding pretty strong the last 4 weeks, right around 1,050 to 1,100 active properties on the market. 132 said yes to the house in the last 7 days in Fulton County. Looks pretty strong for summer. Might have been a little bit stronger right at the end of the school year, but all in all, we're staying pretty strong on active under contracts. Pendings are at 302. We had a couple weeks where we were a little bit higher end of school year, but for the most part, the month of June and now July 1st, we've stayed pretty close to 300 properties pending at all times in Fulton County. Yet here's our realtor effect. So don't pay attention or do pay attention to 211 closed in the last 7 days. My guess is all those properties that closed out Friday are not inside this number right now. But if we were looking kind of June versus May, you can kind of see we had 372 at the end of April. Then we had 213, 300, 250, and then 234 compared to 393, 291, 338. And then we'll see what this number comes in. Fulton County, to me, sure looks like we had a better June than we had in May. Would y'all agree with that assessment? Which is, I say, is good news because May seemed to be just kind of from not bad, not good, just flat. So an increase in June would be a very welcomed stat to be able to talk about. We'll see after next couple days what closes out and we run the reports. But I feel like the market's peaking, which it's supposed to peak in June. But I feel like the momentum's carrying us forward right now. Let's see what DeKalb did. So DeKalb's got 601 active properties outside of 608 3 weeks ago. It's kind of an all-time high of active supply of property in DeKalb County. For some reason, they just struggle getting over 100 on properties going under contract. 96. But just kind of looking May compared to June, June does seem to be a little bit stronger than May was, which same storyline, right? We're on the up. Pendings, we've got 186. At the end of last month, we were 178 or 194. So probably around the same on the pending numbers. But if we jump down here to closings, once again, we're low because they're not closed out in FMLS yet. But looking at May with 240 at the end of last or 2 months ago, 129, 205, 154, 151, 232, 202, 206, and then whatever number comes in here. Sure looks like DeKalb was stronger in June than May, which I feel optimistically that we're going to be able to say that firmly here in about 5 to 7 days. So I won't know till we get the number, but it sure feels that way. And out in Cobb County, we've got 568, which is a little bit down from the week before. So their inventory is slowing a little bit in Cobb County, but 118 said yes to the house, which is a really strong number for Cobb County. 193, they dance around that 200 pending number a lot, and they've been kind of dancing around it for the last 2 months. And then maybe they're a little better at turning their paperwork in. I don't know. But 238 a week ago closed, 211, 293 compared to under 200 numbers. I think it's safe to say Cobb's going to come in higher in June than it did in May as well. What do y'all see?
Room for optimism.
Yeah, I'm cautious to say it, but I feel pretty confident that we're going to be able to say that a week from now, that June was a strong month. Now, compared to what it was a year ago, I don't know those numbers yet. We'll look as the numbers come in. But I want to go to one other stat. So if you're not, let me hit refresh. If you're not logged into the realestatestats.com, you should be, because I want you paying attention to some of these things, especially inventory monthly compared by year. Now, quick education. You see these 3 little lines over here? You can click this and download this graph and put it into any presentation you want. So if you're doing a listing presentation, you could use this chart to be data to tell a story. You can also click the years if you just wanted to show this year versus last year. If you're a line graph person versus a chart person, you can show it in a line graph. But what I wanted to talk about is inventory is really climbing. And currently it may come down a little bit after we close out some of the houses, but currently we're looking at 3.7 months and we are trending up. And what that means is supply of active listings is going up and buyers are going up, but not at the same pace. So it's creating the gap, i.e. inventory. And why this is important is we're getting to those levels that you're going to start to see pricing affected. Not yet, but it's climbing that way. And I think it's just a really important measure to be paying close attention to right now? Rick, I mean, you got
Yeah.
history. Kelly, you got history. Thoughts?
Yeah. I have this one thought. Uh, as realtors, we see it first before the public sees it, before your seller sees it. So if we're hitting close to 4 months, it's almost double from last year. So that feels like really long, especially when we're so used to 2021, where it was like 30 seconds, you got 12 offers. So it feels really long. And so the managing of expectations with your sellers is going to be so key. And I've noticed that we're in this in-between spot where we feel it, we know it. We've been telling the seller that things are taking maybe a tad bit longer and or there's more competition, but they haven't felt the effect yet until we go through a few months of cycles. And then they're going to go, oh yeah, my neighbor took longer, so therefore mine should too. Or could do that. So I think it's always good to remember we see data, especially here at the Heart of Atlanta Group, we see data first before your clients do. And that our communication skills are going to have to become very sharp.
Yeah, and if you want to be more compelling, make sure that the data supports the narrative and your perspective. And when it does, it becomes undeniable truth. And so trends are everything. So pay attention to where things are going, not where they are as much. You know, the crystal ball effect of uncertainty will cause buyers and sellers to lock up or move forward depending on the way you align data and the story. And so, yeah, this affects, you know, how aggressive you are on pricing, how aggressive you are on offering on homes. If you're on the other side of the coin, this affects how, you know, how important is staging and positioning and relative to competition. So it does look like competition's continuing to rise, and you know, it should help your clients understand, should I move now or wait, which is the number one question, you know, and if we do move now, what does that look like and how do we win?
Yep. There you go. Which leads me to this article. This article in the Atlanta Business Chronicle, Chronicle, says one-time housing hotspots now seeing price cuts. So this is a national comment. I don't know that we're seeing crazy price reductions yet, but I wanted to just kind of show you down here in this chart. So you see Atlanta's not on here right now, but I want you to see the relationship. So year over year inventory by month in Northport, Florida, the inventory went up 1.7 months from a year ago. And they're having price depreciation of 4.6%. If you go back and look at us, if this holds true, we are 1.4 months of inventory increase from where we were a year ago. Now we're not having, I lost my place here. We're not having 4.6% price depreciation, but you have to look at a couple things. Year over year, new listings, they haven't put more listings on the market. Our percentage is much higher of new listings coming on the market compared to what a year ago was. But we do have inventory pretty comparable. But what's our days on market doing? What do you think? It's gone up, but not 20, not this much, right? So all these factors play into pricing. But you can see other markets like Austin, Texas is flat on pricing, but they have 11% more new listings, which we're probably tracking close to 10%. But year over year, their inventory only went up 4. Ours is over a month, but their days on market went down 14%, but ours went up a little bit. So it's not directly related to inventory, but inventory is a big factor in what happens to pricing, right? So it's a deeper study, but I wanted you to be aware, just from a general comment, that we're moving in a direction that's probably going to start to affect pricing. We're not affected today, so don't hear me say we're affected. I'm forecasting that we are moving in a direction that's going to start to slow pricing down. and eventually more price reductions, longer days on market, things like that. Would you agree or disagree?
I would agree. And I think this goes back to brushing up on our skills of how do we price, understanding days on market, so pricing accordingly, and then communicating that to the client, because their mindset may not have shifted yet. It may be a 6 month lag before they see the difference. So just knowing how to communicate very effectively.
Yeah. So May 2023 was 12 days on market. May 2024 was 14 days on market. I don't have June's numbers yet, but June was 11 days on market. I don't think we're going to be 11 days on market. I think we're probably still close to 14, something like that, right? So there's not a big change in days on market median, right? But the inventory is a big change. And that just speaks to the amount of properties you guys are out there listing, which I think is a great thing, because if you're a listing agent, you control your business better than you do as a buyer's agent. However, we need demand to kind of catch up a little bit.
And you have to be careful taking this data again, because it's global and it's more far reaching than your immediate micro market. It's critical that you overlay that against your neighborhood, your zip code, your street, even to recognize trends that are in alignment or not. That's what makes you the professionals, to be able to say, hey, this is what the media says, but here's what's really going on in your neighborhood. I love that. What is the morning show? And here's what's going on in your neck of the woods.
Mhm.
I think that's an Al Roker. Al Roker. Yeah, that's what you got to know, though. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Yeah. All
right
right.
now,
So
I'm praying for rain. I'm praying for rain for Al. It's been too hot.
There you go. All right. So this is an interesting article that really made me think for a minute. So you realize the 2 to 3% interest rate environment started to change around 2019. And it didn't go crazy high, but it went into the fours. And people felt like they missed out. And there was a percentage of home buyers that started in 2019 doing adjustable rate mortgages. Okay. And most people that do adjustable rate mortgages do them on 5-year increments. So 5-year adjustable rate mortgage. So starting in 2019, not a giant chunk, but there was a percentage of homeowners, 1.7 million, who bought homes with adjustable rate mortgages since 2019. So if I bought a house in 2019 with an adjustable rate mortgage, that mortgage is adjusting this year. And the houses that bought in 2020 with adjustable rate mortgages adjust next year. What happens to those payments?
They're going up.
They're going up. And what is the psychology to those homeowners when their payment adjusts?
We got to sell the house.
Well, that's what we hope, right?
Like refinance.
Exactly. So the deal is over after it adjusts. And there's they sell it going, hey, if we put you in an adjustable rate mortgage and the rate's at 4.5, there's a chance it could go down. That's the language. It'll adjust with whatever the rate is when it adjusts. But it didn't go down, as we're all aware. It went up. So
Brett, what do you think those rates will be adjusting to roughly this year and next year?
It's too broad of a question to answer, because it depends on the terms of the loan that they took, right? So there were 2-1 buy downs. There was 5, all the different terms of the loan, but it's safe to say, regardless of what it adjusts to, it adjusted up.
And so there'll be less of a gap now between the current rate and what they're about to get.
I mean, here's the thing. When you buy a house on an adjustable rate mortgage, that could be a really good thing. And one of the mindsets behind it is The odds are you're not going to stay in that house more than 5 years anyway. However, data is telling us now people are staying in their houses longer than 5 years.
Mhm.
I'm sitting on 7 in my house. And of course, my wife's trying to talk me into selling, which that's a whole nother story. Um, but the data is all about how long somebody stays in the house. What's relevant to us is there's probably a chunk of people over the next few years that their mortgages are going to adjust. And I think that pushes some people back into the market. And I think that's a good thing for us. Make sense?
Brett, yeah, Brett, you don't think they refinance?
At 7%?
I mean, if it's 2019, you don't think during 20, 21, 22 that they may have refinanced?
Well, the rates did nothing but go up over time. If you do an adjust for rate mortgage, you can't refinance until after the term.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, here we're dancing into mortgage professional, not real estate professional world here, but um, I wouldn't get caught up in all the detail of it. I would
So-
just get caught up in the understanding that this is probably going to adjust for a lot of people over the next few years.
So I would spend some time with your lender with some regularity and just say, where do you see things going and how does this affect me and how can I become a more informed consultant? That's the bottom line. And so a good lender, quality lender knows when it's time to refinance. They know if you're capable of refinancing. They're also able to share trends in lending that help you again become a bigger, better advocate and shaping your narrative.
Make sense? Any other thoughts or questions? All right. Quick luxury comment. The Dylan, if you're not aware, you need to be aware of what's going on in the market. The Dylan is in Peachtree Battle. It's 18 stories, 170 or 144 residences that are all about to pop, and it's all luxury, and it's supposed to deliver, if I'm not mistaken, this year. It's a whole new building of luxury condominiums that is supposed to be pretty high end and be in the know. So I'll put the article in circle for us. This one, somebody want to take this one, Kelly, Rick?
Yeah. This didn't surprise me either. And I think that we can also piggyback it off of any kind of interest rate conversation in a sense that it's not surprising that insurance rates are going up. They definitely spoke to certain states that have a lot of natural disasters, whether it was Florida, Oklahoma, tornadoes, and Texas that had a little bit of flooding and tornadoes and hurricanes. They're seeing the highest. And yet at the same time, it makes sense because these have been, at least couple of those states have had such population increase. So 20 years ago, you may have had a neighborhood with 100 homes. Now you have a neighborhood of 200 homes. So when the same storm hits that, they didn't affect 100 people, they affected 200 people. And then our building costs have gone up. So in order to rebuild something, the cost of labor to build, the cost of materials to build has gone up. And guess what? Your insurance premiums are going up just because things have cost more. And I think where this could also be interesting too is for folks that are that you lock in your interest rate a long time ago, and it goes up on a routine basis every year or thereabouts. Which you should get your insurance priced every few years, just as a good price check for yourself. And don't just lock in and leave it. With that, if your interest rate goes up and the insurance goes up, of course, your property taxes are going up. It could push some affordability issues. And I am a big believer right now. Everyone who's in due diligence, go get your insurance quote during due diligence. Don't do what we used to do back in the day and get it 3 days before closing. Get your quotes now, because with all the new insurance laws with lending with regard to condos, insurance coverage with regarding roofs, insurance cover and the cost of the roof has to be in certain condition before insurance will put a binder on that for your closing. Get all your insurance quotes done during due diligence. The cost is a factor, but also conditions that they will insure a property is a huge factor. And so it's not surprising. I think we just got to take a deep breath knowing everything is going up a little bit.
There you go. I got a weird comment on this. When you're a buyer's agent and you have a buyer that gets, let's say they get pre-approved for 500,000 and they want to buy at 500,000, and 9 times out of 10 they start sending you houses for 525,000. This is one of those sleepers inside the conversation around somebody buying at their max. And it might be an opportunity for you to just educate buyers around fiscal responsibility, because if they buy like completely maxing their life out and then insurance goes up 20% like it did over the last 2-3 years, they could be in some real financial trouble, because taxes and insurance are the two factors that change their payment, right? And I just think if you're a great counselor to people, you've got to understand these kinds of things and say, listen, I'm happy to show you houses, and if you want to stretch, it's your choice. But I just want you to understand that sometimes those payments today could change tomorrow, because taxes go up over time and insurance is on a upward trend right now. And I just want you prepared. And you heard me say that. I think that's great counseling, and people respect you for having conversations like that instead of just being the agent that's pushing price, right?
Yeah. Insurance companies are in the business of making money. They're not in the business of paying claims. That's just the byproduct of what they do. So when times are tough or natural disasters creates a disproportionate income to expense and liability, they bail back out and somebody's got to pay for it. And so I think they cost average across many markets to try to net a profit. And that's why you're seeing increases even in areas that aren't necessarily as vulnerable as a coastal Florida community.
Yeah. Quick plug, 2 weeks from the 4th is our next State of the Industry. Luke put a thing in the chat that you can register, and we're going to try to do our best to deep dive at the State of the Industry around the election factor. But this is a quick article that talks a little bit around what happens to real estate around elections. And you can read the whole article. But the headline says that home sales tend to rise after big elections. Regardless of what side of the fence you're on, do you believe that this is a big election? I do. And there's a couple things that you need to understand. The first one is, historically, home sales from a seasonality bell curve effect go down in October and November around 9.8%, meaning the fourth quarter typically slows in October and November 10%, and then there's usually a little bump in the month of December. But in years of elections, that October, November time frame typically slows down 15%. So there's not a 15% decline in election years. It's a 5.2% more than normal slowdown in the months of October, November. So if I know that, how crucial is it for me to win the third quarter right now? If I can win big in the third quarter, I can offset this, 1. 2, I could also front load my sales, whether I put people under new construction contracts, I get more listings than I normally do in the third quarter. I could offset this effect, but by and large, the consumer mentality gets shaken for about 60 days before an election, which just has a 5% effect historically, is what this is saying. But also what it's saying is after an election, home sales tend to rise after big elections. So that's saying first quarter 2025 should be a good first quarter, and fourth quarter 2024 could be affected a little bit by the election. Not a lot, but 5%. So knowing that, how crucial is it for you to be on your game right now, nailing the third quarter, July, August, and September, to insulate your business from whatever comes in October and November. And then when the market turns first quarter 2025, you're positioned to win really big. And I've heard people say that elections don't have that much effect on the real estate industry. And I kind of agree with that. 5% is not that much of an effect. But what happens after an election usually is a good effect, because it's not even a political statement. It's a consumer confidence. We are nailed with negative marketing prior to an election, which lowers consumer confidence, regardless if you're left or right. And then after an election, the unknown is over, which raises consumer confidence. And it's just a calendared event, just like good luck showing houses Friday is a Thursday, July 4th. That's a calendared event, right? Like we have calendared events that change the real estate sales cycle. All that to say, Keeping Current Matters is doing a big deep dive on this, and we're going to get all that research and bring it to the state of the industry. But I don't know, what do y'all think of this?
Brett, when I saw that too, I had the same thoughts as you. Like, you always hear elections affected, and I was like, come on, what's the data that actually does it? And I was glad to actually see data. And yet at the same time, I think it's exactly right, because all you hear is negativity starting like September, October, up until the first Tuesday in November when the election is. And then there may be negativity after that, depending on how it goes. With that said, I think our mindset needs to be extremely focused and extremely positive. And I almost challenge us to flood our own clients and social media with some kind of positive message, because they are hearing negativity everywhere else. We could be the voice of reason for them, because we're actually in the industry and we're sensing things, and we should just be, people who carry joy and positivity anyway. And if this data is true, and that we're going to see more in first quarter 2025, that means I better lead gen the heck out of my fourth quarter of 2024, because if I started to January 25, I'm behind the 8 ball. And I won't get the leads that I could have had if I actually took the time during the most negative part of the year of the election cycle and be that positive person and lead gen, and maybe do some nurturing calls, not just who do you know calls that want to buy or sell a house, but maybe nurturing calls, care calls, some kind of things that can connect me with my database, lead gen the heck out of October, November, obviously December. If this data is true.
There you go. Brett, can you scroll back to the chart of drop in sales before election? Yes, I will show that. Rick, I'm going to give you a final word. We're running long.
Excuse me. Yeah, control the controllables. It's that simple. So what, now what? I think sometimes there's two sides to this coin. One is your attitude and energy, which Kelly hit on extremely effectively. So I'm not going to reiterate other than to say, if your attitude's wrong, it's irrelevant what the external world's doing. And the same thing's true for your clients. And your job, in my humble opinion, is to help them see past the noise and find the opportunity.
Yeah. And I just want to say, my final word is the third quarter is super important to go out and win the third quarter right now. And that's July, August, and September. We need you on extra effort, double time. Go crush the third quarter, and you'll thank it later. All the effort will pay off in you winning the fourth quarter and being ready for first quarter 2025. And it's halftime, guys. Let's go.
Go team.
All right.